At 5:42 in the morning, beneath Manhattan, the life of a girl everyone dismissed as nothing more than the button pusher quietly held the survival of an entire city. The subway tunnel breathed like a steel lung. Steam rose from the rails, carrying the sour smell of brakes and old coffee. Inside a glass booth no bigger than a closet, a young woman sat with tangled hair and a jacket streaked with dirt. To the morning crowd, she was invisible, just a shadow behind the glass who pressed a button whenever the gates jammed. They called her the button pusher. To the bankers, professors, and mothers rushing past, she was part of the machinery, breakable, forgettable, replaceable. But beneath the counter, hidden between rolls of tickets and duct tape, lay a black notebook. Inside were cramped lines of handwriting, arrows, sketches of stairways and gates, and numbers that looked more suited to a mathematics seminar than a subway booth. One note read, 7:52 to 8:07 a.m. Average of 15 seconds between arrivals. East stairwell becomes blocked if a stroller is present. On the margin, she had written, number waiting equals arrival rate times waiting time. She had learned this not in a classroom, but in the quiet corner of a public library, watching free lectures late at night on a borrowed phone. For everyone else, rush hour was chaos. For her, it was a living equation. Her name was Anna Carter, 19 years old, born in Clay County, Kentucky, a coal town that had forgotten its own children. Her mother cleaned motel rooms until one winter an asthma attack stopped her breathing. Poverty kills quietly. Her father had left years earlier, chasing jobs that never lasted. Anna was left with her younger brother Josh, who wheezed every time the cold air scratched his lungs. Rent in the Bronx demanded 2 jobs. The subway booth was one of them. So at dawn, she pressed buttons. At night, she studied patterns. Between dawn and night, she carried the weight of a sick brother and a city that refused to notice she existed. "Hey, button pusher!" A man in a suit slammed his palm against the glass. "Gate's stuck. Do your job." Anna pressed the override. The gate clicked open. The man rushed through without a thank you. She didn't look up. She never did. But she wrote, 8:03 a.m. Manual override cleared the line in 25 seconds. For her, every insult was data. Every moment of contempt was an experiment. At 8:21 a.m., the east escalator jammed. A stroller wedged at the top like a cork in a bottle. The crowd swelled, impatient. Anna lifted the microphone, voice calm and measured. "Step right, give space for the stroller, left lane, keep moving." The commuters shifted. The bottleneck dissolved in half a minute. She recorded, "Temporary split-lane instruction reduced waiting time by 30 seconds. A college student, backpack swinging, sneered as he passed. "What are you, running experiments down here? The system's automated, lady." Anna lowered her eyes. Her pencil didn't stop. That night, she sat in the 4th-floor room she rented with peeling paint and a broken radiator. Josh coughed on the cot beside her. "Tell me about the trains," he whispered. Anna opened the notebook. She pointed to a formula, her voice soft, like a bedtime story. "See this? It means the number of people waiting depends on how fast they arrive and how long they must wait. If too many arrive and the gate is too slow, the line grows. If the gate is faster, the line shrinks." Josh's eyes widened. "So, you can predict it?" She smiled. "I can try. Enough to keep people safe." "Are you like a magician?" "No," she said, stroking his hair. "Just someone who counts." At midnight, Anna walked past the iron gates of Columbia University. She could not enter, but she lingered, listening to the bell tower. Somewhere inside, professors lectured about memoryless systems. The idea that the next step of a process depends only on the present moment. not the past. Anna had copied the phrase into her notebook. Beside it, she wrote, "Isn't that like me? People think I have no history, but the past is still here. It lives in every number I write." The next morning, 5:42 a.m., the fluorescent lights in her station flickered, then snapped dark. Ticket machines froze mid-transaction. The brand-new computer system that was supposed to optimize the subway flow had crashed. The monitors above the turnstiles went black. The city kept breathing. The crowd still came. Anna felt her pulse quicken. She reached for the black notebook. It was the only system still alive. The library smelled of dust and paper, like an attic filled with memory. At night, the doors stayed open later than the grocery store down the block, and that mattered to Anna. The library was her university. The cracked lamp above her corner table was her lecture hall, and the black notebook was her diploma in progress. She leaned over a textbook borrowed from the public shelf, its cover half torn, the words, "Introduction to Probability," barely visible. The pages were heavy with terms that felt cold at first glance: waiting lines, arrival rates, service times. But as she read, the ideas warmed in her hands. These weren't just formulas. They were ways to explain what she already saw each day in the station booth. On the desk beside her, the notebook lay open, filled with cramped writing. One page carried a sentence copied from the book. "The number of people waiting is equal to the rate at which they arrive multiplied by the average time each must wait." Below it, Anna had written her own translation in plain words. "Think of a kitchen sink. If water flows in faster than it drains out, the basin fills. If water drains faster than it arrives, the basin clears. Gates are drains. People are water. My job is to keep the drain open." She read until the lines blurred. The lecture on the old library computer whispered through broken speakers. The voice explained that even when people arrive in random patterns, the averages tell a story. It was like hearing music inside noise. Anna paused and rubbed her eyes. She thought of her mother's voice in Kentucky years ago, bending over the garden soil. "The timing matters as much as the water," her mother used to say. It was the same lesson here. If you released people at the wrong time, the whole system choked. If you released them gently, the city breathed. The librarian, a thin woman with silver hair, passed her table and set down a small bowl of mints. "You look like you're training for something," she said softly. "Maybe I am," Anna replied with a shy smile. She walked home that night past the iron gates of Columbia University. The buildings glowed golden behind the bars, and the bell tower chimed steady as a metronome. Anna paused in the cold wind. Somewhere inside, students bent over chalkboards filled with symbols. Somewhere, a professor's voice explained memoryless systems, where the next step depends only on the present, not the past. Anna had written that phrase in her notebook, memoryless. She added her own reflection beside it. "People think I have no past, but the truth is, it walks with me every day." She tightened her scarf and turned back toward the Bronx. She could not afford to stand too long outside the dream. The station roared the next morning. At 7:30 sharp, a school group swarmed down the escalators. Bright jackets, rolling backpacks, nervous chaperones. Anna saw the trouble before it began. The boy at the back had untied shoes, and the crowd pressed forward, blind to him. She tapped the microphone. "Everyone hold a moment, give him space to tie his shoes, then keep moving." The group paused, puzzled but obedient. The boy crouched, tied his laces, stood again with a grin. 10 seconds, nothing more. But without those 10 seconds, the ripple of delay would have carried into the stairwell and turned into a dangerous push. Anna wrote in her notebook, Slowest point was the backpack scan, not the shoe. But if the shoe had slowed the stairwell, pressure would have grown. Lesson: never carry a problem into a narrower place. When she looked up, she saw him again, the man with gray hair she had noticed outside Columbia. He stood near the booth, watching. His coat was simple, but his eyes were sharp. After the flow cleared, he stepped forward. "I saw what you did," he said through the glass. His voice was calm, low, almost curious. "You flattened the wave before it hit the choke point." "I told a kid to tie his shoe," Anna answered quietly. He smiled slightly. "Which is another way of saying you matched the pace of arrivals with the pace of departures. My name is Thomas Reed. I teach systems engineering at Columbia." He nodded toward her notebook. "What are you writing in there?" "Observations, mistakes, what to try next." "Would you ever show me?" he asked. Anna hesitated. Professors belonged to another world, one she had only glimpsed through library windows. But this man's eyes were steady. There was no mockery in them. Only interest, and maybe a touch of respect. "Maybe," she said at last, "when I'm off shift. But you have to promise to be kind about the parts that don't make sense yet." He slid a card under the glass. "Kindness is a good rule. I accept." That afternoon, the station tested her again. At 3:30, a young mother struggled at the top of the west stairwell. A stroller caught on the railing. The crowd pressed from behind. A toddler wailed. The push of bodies grew. Anna knew this rhythm. She had felt it years ago in Kentucky, waiting with her mother in line for donated food when a pallet collapsed and panic spread like fire. Her mother's voice had saved them then. "We will all eat. Make space." Anna lifted the microphone. "Hold steady. No one will miss a train. Quick walkers, take the east stairs. Parents with strollers, stay here. I'm opening the side door for you." The guard nearby frowned. The service door was meant for staff. He hesitated. Anna met his eyes, steady. He unlocked the door. The crowd shifted, split into two flows like water finding a wider path. The crying softened. The mother crossed safely to the platform. But then a small boy slipped on the bottom step. His heel caught a wet patch of metal. He pitched forward. Anna rushed out from the booth, weaving through bodies. "Stop!" she shouted. The line froze. She caught the boy by his shoulders and pulled him upright. His mother grabbed his hand with tears of relief. Back in the booth, Anna wrote, "Pressure built at 3:31, open side door at 3:33. Cleared by 3:36. One child nearly fell. Recommendation: post sign for 2 lines. Add non-slip strips at bottom steps." When she looked up again, Professor Reed was there. He tapped lightly on the glass. "You didn't just move bodies," he said. "You changed the story they were telling themselves. That's the difference between a plan and a policy. A plan moves schedules. A policy moves people." Anna shrugged. "I told them where to stand." "So did Florence Nightingale," he replied. "She told soldiers where to stand, how to clean, and by doing so, she changed survival." He paused. "Will you meet me for coffee after your shift? No tricks. I want to see that notebook." "I have to get soup for my brother," Anna said. "But there's a shop next to the market, 6:15. "I'll be there," he said. The coffee shop was small, its windows fogged with warmth. Reed sat in the corner with 2 cups waiting. He slid one toward her. "I didn't know how you'd take it." She wrapped her hands around the cup, grateful for the heat. They opened the notebook between them. He read each page slowly, asking questions with the patience of someone who truly wanted to learn. Anna explained how she drew the station as a network of entrances and stairwells, how she thought of people moving like liquid, sometimes thin like water, sometimes thick like honey depending on fear or cold. She explained her 4 new rules. Protect the slowest. Speak before pressure peaks. Make 2 lines when one is narrow. Prepare for the rare worst case, not only the easy average. Reed nodded. Would you let me share these notes with my students? With your name or without, as you choose. Share them, Anna said softly, but use only my first name. He closed the notebook as if it were fragile glass. One last question. The city is about to hand more control to a computer system that promises to optimize everything. If it fails, who should decide what happens next? The machine again, or the people who stand where the pressure is? Anna thought of her mother in the food line, of the boy on the stairwell, of the guard who had turned his key despite the rule. The machine can plan, she said. The people must steer. Reed smiled gently. Then keep writing. One day, when the lights go out, your notes may be the only map left. That night, back in the small, rented room, Anna read her new rules aloud to Josh while he sipped soup. He listened with wide eyes, as if she were teaching him magic. You're saving people, he whispered. We're saving them, she corrected. All of us together. She slipped the index card with the 4 rules into her coat pocket, turned out the light, and lay awake listening to the wind rattle the windows. In her mind, she replayed the crowd softening at her words, like cloth loosening on a tight loom. Not magic, she told herself. Practice and care. And practice, she knew, would be needed again soon. Morning in Manhattan begins like the pull of a tide. By 6:30, the river of bodies already surged through the tunnels. Anna pressed the button to release a jammed gate and kept her eyes on the flow. But this morning felt different. Posters had gone up across the stations. Bright blue letters shouted, "Smart Flow, the future of transit." The city had signed a contract with a young technology company that promised to manage every detail of subway movement with artificial intelligence. The idea sounded dazzling in press conferences. Algorithms would adjust train spacing in real time. Sensors would monitor crowd density at every stairwell. Digital voices would direct passengers where to walk. The mayor himself had promised smoother commutes, shorter waits, and a system free of human error. For commuters, the promise was simple: less waiting, fewer delays. For the company, it was a triumph of engineering. For the workers in booths like Anna's, it was a shadow falling across their shoulders. By 8 o'clock, a man in a crisp suit arrived with 2 technicians. They stood near Anna's booth, holding tablets that glowed. From today, the man announced to the guard, the smart flow system will handle gate timing. Manual overrides will no longer be necessary except in true emergencies. Human instructions through microphones should be avoided. The system speaks for itself. Anna kept her eyes down but wrote a line in her notebook. From today, the machine speaks. People told not to. She did not argue. The guard beside her shrugged, half relieved to have less responsibility. Still, Anna watched. The morning rush poured down the escalators. The new system pulsed instructions on the screens above the gates. Use east stairwell. West gate closed for flow balance. The crowd obeyed at first, amused by the novelty. Gates clicked open in perfect rhythm. The line at the ticket machine shortened. For a while, everything looked smooth. See? One technician said with pride. Balanced in real time. The computer sees what humans can't. Anna wrote, system balanced load, smooth for average case. But then a father appeared carrying a stroller, the same kind that had blocked the stairwell last week. The screen above him flashed, use east stairwell. He obeyed. The east stairwell was narrower, with steeper steps. The stroller caught again, but this time no human voice interrupted. The crowd behind him pressed forward, urged by the screen's glowing command. Anna's hand twitched toward the microphone. Then she remembered the order. Manual instructions should be avoided. She pressed her palm flat against the desk, forcing herself to wait. At the last moment, the father twisted the stroller sideways and half-carried it down the steps. The crowd stumbled, but did not break. The wave of pressure passed. The technician grinned. See? It worked itself out. Anna's pencil moved quietly. Worked itself out, Eel's family forced into unsafe effort. Risk not measured. That evening, she met Professor Reed again in the corner coffee shop. She laid the notebook open to the page. He read the line, tapped the words with his finger. That's what they call average optimization, he said. The machine reduces overall wait time but ignores outliers. The trouble is, the outliers are people. A family with a stroller, a man with a cane, a woman with a broken ankle. To the system, they are noise. To us, they are the heart of the problem. Anna sipped her coffee. But the system runs the whole city now. Systems are only as wise as the goals you feed them, Reed replied. If you tell the computer to minimize average delay, it will sacrifice the few for the many. If you tell it to prevent accidents, it may slow the many for the sake of the few. No machine can decide which of those is the right balance. Only people can. Anna stared at her notebook. She thought of her mother collapsing from asthma because she had been too slow, too poor, too far from care. To the hospital, she had been just one more patient lost in a crowd. To Anna, she had been everything. The next morning, the test of the system became sharper. A music festival in the park brought thousands of extra riders. The sensors blinked red with crowd density. The screens barked orders. Redirect to West Gate. East closed. At first it worked, but by noon the west side was jammed. The East Gate sat locked, even as a group of elderly passengers leaned on their walkers in front of it. System hasn't authorized an opening, the technician muttered. It wants balance. Balance. Anna watched the old men shuffle, confused and unsteady, forced to cross the hall into the heavier crowd. One stumbled, caught by a stranger's arm. Anna pressed the microphone button. Her voice cut across the station. Hold steady. East Gate open for seniors and anyone who needs time. She pushed the manual override. The gate clicked, freeing the group. The technician spun on her. You can't just override the AI. I just did, Anna said simply. The crowd eased. No one fell. But the technician's face darkened. I'll be reporting this. Anna didn't answer. She only wrote, balance must include the vulnerable. Otherwise, balance is cruelty. At the end of her shift, she walked out into the fading light. The city skyline burned orange. She felt the weight of two worlds on her shoulders, the machine that promised perfection, and her own small voice speaking through a dusty microphone. Reed's words echoed in her ears. Systems are only as wise as the goals you feed them. The city had chosen speed. Anna had chosen safety. Somewhere, she knew, the two would collide. That night, back in her room, Josh lay coughing softly. Anna fed him spoonfuls of soup, then showed him the newest page in her notebook. This week they turned on a machine that decides who waits and who moves, she said. It's smart, but it doesn't care about the weak. Josh frowned. Then it's not really smart. Anna smiled faintly. Maybe not. That's why we keep writing. She wrote a new rule beneath the others. If a system ignores the weakest, it is broken no matter how smooth it looks. The pencil marks pressed deep into the paper, as if she wanted the words carved into more than the page, carved into the future. The morning sun rose pale and thin, but the city pulsed with energy. A summer parade was set to march through Midtown, and the subway system was expected to carry more than 500,000 extra riders. Screens all across the stations glowed with confidence. Smart Flow is ready. Trust the system. Anna arrived for her shift with the black notebook tucked under her arm. She pressed through the tide of passengers, each step heavy with the memory of the warning she had written last night. If a system ignores the weakest, it is broken, no matter how smooth it looks. At 7:30 sharp, the river of people became a flood. The sensors overhead blinked, measuring the crowd. The screens barked orders in glowing blue. Use west stairwell, east closed for flow balance. It seemed to work at first. The west gate took the weight. The east stood quiet. The technicians clapped each other on the back. "Smooth as silk," one said. Anna watched closely. She knew better. Smoothness in the first minutes meant nothing. Pressure took time to show its teeth. At 8:10, the first sign appeared, a group of tourists at the east gate, confused by the glowing "closed" sign. They hesitated, clutching maps. Behind them, a crowd of regular commuters moved toward the west stairwell as ordered. The two groups collided like streams of water forced into the same narrow pipe. The AI did not adjust. It had minimized average wait times in the first hour, but it did not see the slow swell of frustration building. Anna gripped her microphone. "Split left and right," she said softly into the system. "Keep walking, no pushing." A technician turned on her. "Stop interfering. The system is in charge now." Anna ignored him. She had already seen enough to know that silence was dangerous. By 9 o'clock, the platform shook with music from street performers drawn in by the parade crowd. Drums pounded, voices echoed. The AI system read the extra noise as higher density. Its sensors were fooled by vibrations. The screens suddenly flashed. "All passengers use East Gate." The crowd obeyed at once, swinging like a herd in the opposite direction. The east stairwell, still narrower and steeper, filled in 30 seconds. Parents carrying children were caught in the surge. Anna pressed the override button without hesitation. "Hold steady. 2 lines. East for families and strollers, west for quick walkers." She opened the locked west gate again. The crowd shifted, confused but grateful. The flow split. The panic softened. The technician cursed. "You're destroying the data. The machine can't learn if you override it." Anna wrote in her notebook, "If a system learns at the cost of human lives, it is not learning. It is gambling." At 11:40, the parade crowd thickened. Every train arrived already packed. The AI's optimization routine switched to greedy mode, releasing trains as quickly as possible to clear the platforms. On paper, this reduced average waiting time. In reality, it meant trains left half full of people crushed near the doors, while others were left behind in unsafe clusters. Anna saw it happen. A woman pressed hard against a pillar, her child squeezed between 2 heavy men. The doors shut in front of her. The train left, carrying away half the weight, but none of the danger. She lifted the microphone. "Step back from the doors. More trains are coming. We are opening the side stairwell to release pressure." She signaled the guard to unlock the emergency stair. For a moment, the crowd hesitated, torn between the glowing commands of the screen and the warm voice of a human. Then they followed her. The platform eased. Reed appeared in the corner, notebook in his hand. He had been watching. He nodded once, grave and proud, but the technicians had had enough. One stormed toward her booth. "You are suspended. You cannot override a city system." Anna looked him in the eye. "I didn't override the city. I saved it." The guard beside her crossed his arms and stepped closer. "She's right." If she hadn't spoken, someone would have gone down. The technician sputtered but backed off, pulling out his phone to call his supervisor. At 3 in the afternoon, the true fracture appeared. A train stalled just short of the platform. The AI, starved of one piece of data, miscalculated. It directed thousands of passengers to the west gate, while the east stairwell stood almost empty. The west filled to bursting. Anna's heart thudded. She could see the wave forming. The crowd leaned forward, unaware that the train was still a minute away. She pressed the microphone. "Stop. Breathe. East gate open now. Move slowly. Do not push." She overrode the system. The gates clicked. The flow split. But it was close. Too close. One man slipped on the west stairs, dragged back up by strangers before he was trampled. Anna wrote, "System blind when one input missing. People trust screen more than common sense. Human voice required to prevent collapse." Her pencil dug deep into the page. She felt as though she were carving the words into the bones of the city. That evening she met Reed in the coffee shop again. He had brought papers, maps of the subway drawn in neat lines. "You were right," he said simply. "The system cracked today." Anna shook her head. "It didn't crack. It showed us what it was built for. Speed, not safety. Numbers, not people." Reed leaned forward. "I have colleagues who still believe in this project. They'll call today a hiccup. They'll say the system needs more training. But I saw what happened. You saved lives." Anna folded her hands around her cup. "One day I won't be there to speak. Then what?" Reed's eyes were steady. "Then you write the rules now. You create a map not just for machines, but for people inside the system. A guide they can follow when the screens fail." Anna opened her notebook, turned to a fresh page, and wrote, "Rule 5. The system cannot see the human heart. Someone must always stand at the gates." When she returned home that night, Josh was waiting, thin arms crossed, a grin on his pale face. "I saw the news," he said. "They said the subway glitched during the parade. Was that you?" Anna laughed softly. "If by me you mean a tired girl with a notebook, then yes." Josh puffed out his chest. "You're like the captain of the trains." "No," Anna said gently. "The city is too big for captains. I'm just one person steering for a few minutes. Tomorrow, someone else must steer." She showed him the new page in the notebook. He read the rule out loud, slowly as though it were scripture. The system cannot see the human heart. Someone must always stand at the gates. He looked up at her with pride shining in his eyes. "Then you'll always stand there, right?" Anna kissed his forehead. "As long as I can." That night, the city slept under banners that promised smart flow success. Officials declared the system a triumph. The technicians filed complaints against Anna. But in the quiet of a small rented room, a girl with tangled hair and a stubborn spirit wrote her truths in plain words. And in the pages of that notebook, the real operating system of the city, one made of care, patience, and human eyes, began to take shape. The subway booth was never silent, but there were moments between trains when the noise thinned to a hum. In those gaps, Anna opened her black notebook and tried to shape chaos into order. Until now, her notes had been a scatter of observations, arrows, scribbles, fragments of thought. But after the near collapse during the parade, she felt a need to write something more lasting. Not just records, rules. A guidebook for anyone who might one day stand at the gates. She flipped to a clean page and wrote a title, "A Human Guide to Crowded Places Underneath." She copied her growing list of rules. Protect the slowest. Speak before pressure peaks. Make 2 lines when one is narrow. Prepare for the rare worst case, not just the easy average. The system cannot see the human heart. Someone must always stand at the gates. She sat back, staring at the words. They looked fragile on the paper, like seedlings pushed into rocky soil. Yet each had been tested in real moments. A boy tying his shoes, a stroller on the stairs, an old man at the gate. These were not theories from a lecture hall. They were laws written in the breath of living people. That evening, after her shift, she met Professor Reed at the coffee shop. He had grown accustomed to their meetings, and so had she. He always carried a satchel stuffed with papers. She always carried the notebook. "This," Reed said, flipping through her pages, "is more than observation. It's a framework, a policy manual in plain language. Do you realize what you're writing?" Anna shrugged. "Just notes. Anyone could make them." "No," he said firmly. "Most people don't see what you see. And the ones who do can't explain it in words this simple. You've made theory human. That matters." He explained how her notes mirrored ideas from his own field. Flow networks, service times, tail risks. But when she spoke, she used pictures. Water in a sink, cloth loosening on a loom, 2 lines instead of 1. "My students could spend a semester on the same ideas," he said, "and never feel them as clearly as you do." Anna flushed, embarrassed. "I just write what I see." "Then keep writing," Reed said. News of her actions during the parade had spread quietly among workers. One afternoon, a young technician from the operations center appeared at her booth. He was nervous, maybe 24, his tie crooked. "Are you Anna?" he asked. She nodded. He glanced around, lowered his voice. "I read some of your notes. Professor Reed shared a page with us in class. The one about protecting the slowest. It stuck with me." Anna stiffened. She hadn't expected Reed to show her work so openly. "You weren't supposed to—" The technician raised his hands. "I'm not here to get you in trouble. I wanted to thank you. My mother walks with a cane. When I read your line, I thought of her. The system would call her an outlier. But you didn't." His eyes softened. "If you ever need help from the control room, I'll listen." He slipped a folded piece of paper under the glass. His name, Daniel Ortiz, and a direct number. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Anna stared at the slip of paper for a long moment before tucking it into the notebook. But for every ally, an enemy waited. Later that week, the booth phone rang. It was her supervisor, his voice clipped. "Anna Carter, you've been interfering with the smart flow system again. I have 2 complaints on my desk. From now on, you are to follow the machine's directions exactly. No improvisation, understood?" "Yes, sir," she said quietly. But when she hung up, she wrote in the notebook, "If obedience means harm, disobedience becomes duty." The cracks in the smart flow system widened. One night, rain slicked the stairs. The sensors misread reflections as empty space and ordered more people into the already crowded stairwell. Anna overrode again, opening a side door to ease the pressure. No one fell. But the technician on duty glared at her. "You'll get yourself fired," he muttered. "Maybe," she said. "But at least I'll sleep." At home, Josh watched her copy the day's notes into a cleaner notebook, one she had bought with the last of her grocery money. Its cover was red. Sturdier, almost proud. "What's that one for?" he asked between coughs. "The black one is for field notes," she said. "This red one is the manual, something I'd want someone else to use if I'm not there." Josh's eyes shone, like a captain's log. "Maybe," she said, smiling. She showed him the newest entry. "A machine may see averages. A human must see faces." Josh traced the words with his finger as if they were carved in stone. 2 days later, Anna arrived at the station to find a flyer taped to the wall. It bore her name. "Employee Carter under review for repeated interference." Passengers ignored it. Most didn't care. But some co-workers smirked as they passed. Others avoided her eyes. Only the guard, the same man who had once hesitated to unlock a service door, muttered as he walked by, "Keep doing what you do, kid. Paper don't save people." Anna wrote that down too. Paper don't save people. People save people. That evening, Reed invited her to his classroom for the first time. She stood in the doorway, hesitant, while rows of students clicked their pens and adjusted laptops. She felt her thrift store coat and worn shoes like weights. Reed introduced her simply. "This is Anna Carter. She works at 125th Street Station. She has something to teach us." The students stared, skeptical. Anna opened her red notebook with trembling hands. She spoke slowly, telling them about the shoe that needed tying, the stroller at the stairwell, the crying toddler in the crush. She read her rules aloud. At first, the students fidgeted. Then, slowly, they leaned forward. One raised a hand. "You're describing queuing systems in plain language." "I'm describing people in lines," Anna corrected gently. By the time she finished, the room was silent. Reed smiled. "Any questions?" No one spoke. Then Daniel Ortiz, the young technician, stood from the back row. "This," he said, holding up her words, "is what the system is missing." Walking home that night, Anna felt both lighter and heavier. She had shared her notebook. She had stepped, however briefly, into the world behind the Columbia gates. Yet the flyer at the station still waited. The system still ruled. She wrote one final line before bed. "Knowledge means little if hidden, but to share it is to risk everything." The storm began with whispers. Weather reports spoke of snow, then ice. By noon, the city issued a warning. Blizzard conditions expected. Stay home if possible. But staying home was not possible for everyone. A championship game filled the stadium uptown, and tens of thousands of fans poured into the subways to escape the storm. Anna wrapped her scarf twice around her neck as she hurried to the station. The wind cut through her coat, biting her skin. When she pushed into the booth, her fingers stung from the cold. Screens all over the platform glowed with blue instructions. Smart Flow active. Trains departing every 4 minutes. The technicians smiled with brittle confidence. "It'll be fine," one said. "The system adapts to weather conditions." Anna didn't answer. She opened her black notebook and waited. By 6 o'clock, the blizzard had thickened. Snow swirled like white smoke across the streets. Fans poured in from the game, chanting, stomping, their voices echoing like drums. Steam rose from their jackets as they packed the stairwells. The AI's sensors blinked red with density warnings. The screens barked, "Redirect to East Gate, West closed for balance." The crowd obeyed. Hundreds pressed into the east stairwell, narrow and steep. Anna's pulse quickened. She had seen this pattern before. One choke point, one misstep, and the pressure would crush whoever stumbled first. She gripped the microphone. "Slow down. 2 lines. Families and elderly on the right. Quick walkers left." The technician snapped. "Stop interfering. The system has this under control." But the crowd ignored the blue screen and followed her voice. For a moment, the flow softened. The wave broke into 2 streams. Then the real failure struck. At 6:37 p.m., a train stalled outside the station. Snow on the tracks, brakes frozen. The AI system, blind to the cause, kept pushing passengers down the stairs, assuming the train was still moving. The platform filled beyond safety in less than 90 seconds. Anna's breath caught. She saw the density rise, shoulders pressed, breath fogging thick. Children lifted above heads to keep from being crushed. She slammed the override. "Stop moving forward. Hold your place. More trains delayed. Stay calm. We're opening the side door." She motioned to the guard. He hesitated only a second before unlocking the emergency door. A stream of passengers flowed into the maintenance corridor, spreading pressure across the building. The technician shouted, "You can't do that! You'll corrupt the system data!" Anna's eyes flashed. If the data matters more than people, then the data deserves to be corrupted. The platform still heaved with bodies. A man with a cane staggered. A woman dropped her purse and vanished into the wave of legs. Anna bolted from the booth. She grabbed the man's arm, pulled him toward the emergency corridor. She shouted for space, her voice breaking against the roar. Strangers helped, forming a chain of hands. Together they lifted the man free. By the time the stalled train finally crept into the station, 10 minutes late, hundreds had been diverted through the side corridors, guided by Anna's rules spoken through tired lungs. The platform held, barely. When the train doors opened, a cheer rose from the crowd. Relief rippled like a sigh. But the technician stood stiff and furious. "This is sabotage," one hissed. "You've humiliated the system in front of thousands." Anna didn't answer. She only bent over her notebook, her pencil carving new lines through trembling fingers. System blind in disruption. People must absorb the shock. Emergency corridors save lives. Trust the crowd when given clear rules. Later, in the coffee shop, Professor Reed and Daniel Ortiz waited for her. Their faces were grave. "You saved them," Daniel said. "Everyone saw it." Reed placed a hand flat on the notebook. "But the company will strike back. They'll call you reckless. They'll say you endangered the system." Anna sipped her tea, her hands still shaking. "Then they can say what they want. I saw children lifted above heads so they could breathe. No system that allows that can be trusted." Reed nodded slowly. "You've moved from observations to doctrine. Today you wrote the 6th law of your guidebook, whether you realize it or not." Anna looked down at her page. Reed was right. The words already formed. When the system fails, leadership belongs to the nearest calm voice. That night, back in the small room, Josh leaned against her, listening to the storm batter the window. "They said on the news the train's almost shut down," he whispered. "Was it scary?" Anna thought of the platform's heaving mass, the roar of trapped voices, the moment she feared the floor would buckle. "Yes," she said, "but people listened. That's what saved us." Josh closed his eyes. "Then you have to keep speaking." The storm raged all night. By morning, snow buried the streets in white silence. But under the city, the memory of the near collapse buzzed in whispers. Passengers spoke of the girl with the microphone, the one who calmed the crowd when the screens went blind. Her name began to spread, not on flyers of warning this time, but in murmured gratitude. And in her red notebook, the rules of a new kind of system, not built of code, but of care, grew one line stronger. For weeks, Anna had been only a shadow in the subway booths, an anonymous figure pressing buttons, scribbling notes. But after the blizzard, her name reached higher floors. The newspapers avoided it, but passengers told each other in hushed tones. The girl with the notebook, the one who spoke when the screens failed. One afternoon, just before her shift, her supervisor summoned her. His jaw was tight, his voice clipped. "Anna Carter," he said, "you've been called upstairs." She blinked. "Upstairs?" "The central control room," he snapped. "Don't make me repeat myself." The control room sat like a heart above the city. Walls of monitors showed every station, every train, every stairwell. Blue and red dots pulsed with data, the supposed lifeblood of smart flow. Anna stood awkwardly in her thrift store coat, clutching her notebook. Around her, engineers in crisp shirts tapped at keyboards. Their voices carried authority, but their eyes glanced at her with suspicion. At the center of the room stood a man in a dark suit, Marcus Hale, director of the Smart Flow project. His smile was sharp, without warmth. "So," he said, "this is our little button pusher. The one who thinks she knows better than an artificial intelligence trained on millions of data points." Anna held her ground. "I don't know better. I just see what happens when the data is wrong." Hale laughed, cold. "Data is never wrong. Interpretation can be, but not the numbers themselves." Professor Reed, standing to one side, cleared his throat. "Numbers are never wrong, Marcus. But the goals you attach to them can be. That's what Anna has been trying to show." Hale's jaw tightened. "We didn't call you here to debate philosophy. We called you here to explain why you keep interfering with my system." Anna opened her notebook, her hands steady despite the storm in her chest. "Because your system sees averages, but people live at the edges. When a train stalls or a stairwell narrows, averages can't protect anyone. Only a voice in the moment can." For a long silence, only the hum of machines filled the room. Then Daniel Ortiz, the young technician who had once slipped her his number, spoke from the back. "She's right. During the blizzard, the system kept pushing people into a platform with no train. Without her, we would have had a crush." Hale's eyes narrowed. "And you think a girl with no degree is the answer?" Reed stepped forward. "She is not the answer. But she is a proof that your system needs a human in the loop, not just as a backup, but as a partner." Anna turned the notebook toward the screens. On a fresh page, she had drawn a simple diagram: stations as dots, lines as flows, a hand-drawn microphone at the center. "This," she said, "is not a machine-only system, and it's not a human-only system. It's both. The machine can see the whole network, but only a human can feel the pressure in one stairwell, hear the panic in one voice, and calm it with plain words." She added softly, "The machine plans. The human steers." Some of the engineers murmured. One raised a skeptical eyebrow. "You're talking about an interactive model, but humans are slow. The AI runs in milliseconds." Anna met his gaze. "Then let the AI run the schedule, but give humans the authority to change course when reality bends. I don't need to be fast. I just need to be there." Hale scoffed. "You'd slow down the entire network for one crying child." "Yes," Anna said simply, "because that child is the city too." Reed placed his hand on the table. "Call it what you like. Hybrid control, human in the loop, shared authority. But the truth is simple. Without human oversight, Smart Flow will fail again. And next time, it won't be saved by luck." The room went quiet. Outside, trains rumbled faintly through tunnels, the heartbeat of the city continuing in the dark. Hale's face hardened. "Enough. We will run more tests, but do not think this conversation changes the chain of command. The system leads. Humans follow." Anna closed her notebook. "Then the system will keep breaking," she said. On the way out, Daniel caught up with her. His face was pale but determined. "You may have lost the room," he said, "but you gained ears. Some of us believe you. Keep writing. They can't ignore the truth forever." Reed walked beside her in silence until they reached the street. Snow still clung to the gutters. The city smelled of wet iron. "Did I fail?" Anna asked quietly. "No," Reed said. "You planted a seed in a stone garden. It may take time to break through, but roots are patient." That night, Anna returned home to Josh. He sat curled under a blanket, coughing lightly. She set a bowl of soup in front of him, then showed him the newest page of the notebook. "This is what I told them," she said. "The machine plans. The human steers." Josh smiled weakly. Like when we used to sled back home. I steered. You pushed. Anna laughed softly. Yes, just like that. She added a new line beneath her rules. Machines can plan routes, but only humans can choose mercy. In the weeks that followed, Anna noticed small changes. Some screens now included a line of text beneath the commands. In case of emergency, listen for staff instructions. Guards seemed quicker to use side doors, less afraid of punishment. Daniel whispered updates from the control room. Your voice is being discussed. Quietly, but seriously. The official story still praised SmartFlow as flawless, but underneath, a new current moved. A current that carried Anna's words like sparks through the tunnels. And she knew. The battle was no longer between her and the machine. It was between two visions of the city, one that valued averages, and one that valued lives. Winter eased its grip, but the chill inside the station remained. Posters still hung on the tiled walls, praising SmartFlow with glossy slogans. Efficiency for everyone. The future has arrived. Anna knew better. The future had cracks, and through those cracks, she had spoken. One morning she arrived at the booth to find two men in dark coats waiting. They carried clipboards and a stiffness that set her nerves on edge. Anna Carter? One asked. Yes. You're being placed under review for repeated violations of system protocol. Effective immediately, your microphone privileges are suspended. You are not to override the system without clearance. Do you understand? Her mouth went dry. She nodded once. The men moved on, their shoes clicking like iron on stone. The guard muttered from the corner, They're circling you, kid. Be careful. Anna opened her notebook anyway. At the top of the page, she wrote, If they silence the voice, the silence itself becomes dangerous. That evening, Reed invited her to Columbia. Not the coffee shop this time, a lecture hall. She hesitated at the door, clutching her notebook like armor. Students filled the rows. On the board, Reed had written in chalk, Human-in-the-loop systems. Beneath it, he had drawn two circles, one labeled machine, one labeled human, joined by a line. He turned to the class. Today, we have a guest. She works not from theory, but from the tunnels themselves. Whispers rose. Anna stepped forward, her thrift store shoes squeaking against the polished floor. She opened her notebook, pages trembling in her hands, and began. She told them about the boy tying his shoes, the stroller on the stairs, the blizzard crowd gasping for air. She read her rules aloud, plain and steady. Protect the slowest. Speak before pressure peaks. Make 2 lines when one is narrow. Prepare for the rare worst case. The students listened, their pens still. One finally asked, But how do you know when to break protocol? Anna answered, When following it hurts more than breaking it. The room fell silent. Reed smiled. You see, he said to the class, wisdom does not always wear a suit. Sometimes it wears a second-hand coat and sits in a booth beneath the city. Remember that. Word spread. Some praised her as a hero, a living proof that systems needed human hands. Others painted her as reckless, a risk to efficiency. At the control center, Marcus Hale sharpened his words like knives. This girl is a threat to progress, he said in meetings. We cannot allow one untrained employee to undermine years of research. He ordered a report circulated. Unauthorized interventions by employee Carter caused delays averaging 20 seconds per incident. Anna saw the report taped to the station wall. She laughed bitterly. They count seconds, she wrote in her notebook, but they never count bruises or the breath of a child who almost suffocated. Days later, she was summoned again, this time not by technicians, but by a panel in a gray office. 3 supervisors sat behind a long table. "Anna Carter," the woman in the middle began, "you stand accused of insubordination, reckless use of override privileges, and spreading unauthorized materials. Do you deny these actions?" Anna held her notebook tight. "I do not deny them." "Then you admit to undermining SmartFlow?" "I admit to protecting people when SmartFlow ignored them." The room went still. The man on the left frowned. "You lack training. You lack credentials. Why should we trust your judgment?" Anna opened her notebook, turned it toward them. "Because when the lights went out, these rules saved lives, not once, not twice, many times." The woman leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Rules written in pen on cheap paper are not policy. They are opinion." Before Anna could reply, a voice cut from the back. "Then perhaps the city should start listening to opinion, if opinion saves lives." It was Reed. He stepped forward, his gray hair catching the light. "I stand as her witness. I have read her notes. I have tested them against our models. They hold." The panel exchanged uneasy looks. The woman cleared her throat. "This is irregular." "So is a subway crush," Reed interrupted, his voice hard. "So is a child lifted above heads to breathe. The system has failed, and this girl has prevented disaster with nothing but her eyes, her ears, and her courage. If you punish her, you punish the city itself." The words hung in the air like smoke. At last the panel spoke. "Until this matter is reviewed further, Anna Carter will be suspended from microphone use. She may remain employed, but only in manual duties. This is final." The gavel of bureaucracy fell. Anna left the room numb. Reed walked beside her. "I'm sorry," he said. She shook her head. "Don't be. I knew this was coming. What will you do now?" Anna opened her notebook. On the next page, she wrote, "Even when silenced, the work continues. A book can speak when a mouth cannot." She looked at Reed. "If they take my voice, I'll make sure my notebook finds others. Students, guards, anyone who listens." Reed's eyes softened. "Then let me be your amplifier." That night, back in the small room, Josh sat up in bed with his inhaler. "They're trying to stop you, aren't they?" he asked. "Yes," Anna admitted. "Will you stop?" She smiled faintly. "No." She handed him the red notebook. "Read the rules back to me." Josh did, slowly. His voice raspy but sure. When he finished, he added his own line. "Rule 6. If they silence the voice, let the words travel without it." Anna kissed his forehead. "Exactly." In the tunnels below, SmartFlow continued to hum, confident and blind. But in notebooks passed hand to students, to workers, to guards, a different system grew. A human system. A system of mercy. And in the quiet of her room, Anna wrote one more line before sleep. "They can take the microphone. They cannot take the fire." Spring light softened the stone of Harlem. Jackets opened at the collar, but the subway carried the same restless tide. SmartFlow still shone from every monitor in its neat blue font. Efficiency for everyone. Anna worked her booth in silence. The microphone had been taken from her. All she had now was the red notebook, its pages thick with rules she had tested in sweat and fear. She copied a new title on one page. "When the Screen Lies." Beneath it, she listed the signs. A crowd's breath too fast, a stairwell too still, a guard's eyes nervous. At dusk, Daniel Ortiz appeared. He looked thinner, as though nights had been stolen from his sleep. I found something, he whispered. Anna stepped aside so the crowd could pass. What is it? He pulled a small drive from his pocket. The company altered the control room logs. On the night of the blizzard, the system pushed people onto a platform with no train. The original records showed it. Now they show the opposite, like the machine slowed the flow on purpose. They rewrote history. Anna's pulse steadied, strangely calm. Are you certain? I saved a copy, Daniel said. His hand shook. If I stay quiet, I'm part of the lie. She touched the notebook. Bring it to Professor Reed. Tonight. They met in the corner of a coffee shop, 3 figures bent over a laptop, Daniel with his copy of the logs, Reed with his patient pen, Anna with her notebook of plain words. Side by side, they laid out the evidence, what the system had really done, what the company later claimed, and the gap between them. Reed spoke slowly. Numbers are never wrong, but people who change numbers are. By midnight, they had a report. Reed drafted the skeleton. Daniel described the control room. Anna wrote the part the numbers never showed. The child lifted above the crush. The man with the cane pulled back from a fall. She titled her section, What the Averages Missed. They sent the report to 3 places at once: the transit board, a city council member known for asking stubborn questions, and Reed's dean, who had the power to make officials listen. The hearing came a week later. The chamber filled with workers in orange vests, mothers with strollers, students with pens. Josh insisted on coming, his thin hand gripping Anna's tightly. Reed presented the logs side by side, the original and the corrected version. Daniel testified with a trembling voice but steady facts. Then the chairwoman turned to Anna. And you, Ms. Carter, what do you claim? Anna unfolded a sheet written in clear block letters. I claim nothing, she said. I witnessed. I saw people gasping for air while the screen told them to keep moving. Later, the record was changed. That is not reconciliation. That is erasure. She read her rules aloud, plain and steady. Protect the slowest. Speak before pressure peaks. Make 2 lines when one is narrow. Prepare for the rare worst case. Do not rewrite the past to flatter a promise. The chamber was silent. Even the scribbling of pens stopped. Marcus Hale, director of SmartFlow, rose to defend himself. He called the edits formatting. He waved charts of reduced delays. He accused Anna of emotional interference. His voice was smooth, his suit perfect. But something in the air tilted away from him. Too many had seen with their own eyes what he called noise. The committee ordered a live drill. A stalled train, a crowd diverted, a chance to compare the machine's commands with a human voice. The day of the test, volunteers filled a central station. The screens flashed, all passengers use West Gate. The crowd surged west, tight and breathless. Anna lifted the microphone. Hold steady. Quick walkers left. Families right. Breathe. The crowd obeyed. The wave split. Pressure eased. When the train rolled in minutes later, no one had stumbled. The chairwoman spoke. The system works on paper. But when the wind rises, it needs a hand. 2 weeks later, the board ruled. Logs would be locked, overseen by an independent auditor. Microphones would return to trained staff. SmartFlow's goals would be rewritten to include safety alongside speed. A field guide, adapted from Anna's rules, would be printed for every booth. Marcus Hale resigned the same afternoon. He called it personal. Everyone knew otherwise. At her booth, the guard clasped Anna's hand. Told you, paper don't save people. People do. but your paper helped. Her email came quietly. Microphone privileges restored. She held it for a long moment, then set it down. The microphone was not just hers anymore. The guide would put it in many hands. That night, she sat with Reed and Daniel at the coffee shop. They ordered 3 cups. Let the quiet be a kind of hymn. Reed spoke first. The dean has approved a fellowship. You can study with us at Columbia. Not charity, recognition. You'll learn and you'll teach. Anna stared. Me? You, Reed said gently. The city needs more voices like yours. She thought of Josh, of the rent, of the booth. She thought of her mother's voice in the garden. The timing matters as much as the water. She nodded slowly. I'll come, but whatever I learn, I'll carry back to those who never cross this gate. Good, Reed said. That's how knowledge stays alive. Back in her room, Josh waited with a grin. How did it go? Anna laid the red notebook on the table. The truth spoke today, and it was enough. He read the newest lines she had written beneath her rules. Rule 7, never change yesterday to excuse today. Rule 8, when the system forgets the human, make the human the system. Rule 9, share the rules so others can steer when you are gone. Josh looked up, eyes wide. What's the last rule? Anna smiled. We'll write it when it arrives. Outside, a train sighed into a station and opened its doors with a sound almost like welcome. The city did not change in a day. It never does. Trains still screeched, commuters still muttered, snow still turned the stairs slick. But under the noise, something gentler began to breathe. Plain language signs appeared in stations. 2 lines when one is narrow. Protect those who need more time. Guards carried pocket cards with Anna's rules printed in bold letters. Some taped the cards above their booths. Passengers who once mocked the button pusher now nodded at her as they passed. Anna's voice was no longer the only one. Dozens of workers carried the same calm phrases she had tested in her booth, and the city felt less brittle for it. At Columbia, she took her first seat in a classroom not as a visitor, but as a student. The desk felt strange beneath her hands, too smooth compared to the scarred table at the library. But she opened her notebook and wrote anyway. The lectures spoke of flow networks, risk distributions, and resilience models. For the first time, she had the language to match what she had always seen. She listened, then translated every symbol into plain English in the margins, so Josh could understand when she read aloud at night. Reed smiled from the back of the room, proud but careful not to steal her light. Daniel sent her diagrams from the control room. Together they shaped a bridge between theory and practice. Still, Anna returned each morning to the booth. She would not give it up. It reminded her that the point of study was not applause in lecture halls, but safety in stairwells. One afternoon, she took Josh to the library where her journey had begun. The same silver-haired librarian recognized them and smiled. "Back again," she said. "Back again," Anna answered. Josh wandered the aisles while Anna sat at her old table, notebook open. She began a new page. The title written in a hand steadier than years before, The Last Rule. But for a long time, the line beneath stayed empty. That winter, news came from Kentucky. The small town where Anna was born had closed its only school. Families too poor to leave were left with silence. Children played in fields where no teacher's voice reached. The message struck like a hammer. She remembered the coal dust on her mother's jacket, the way winter pressed into the hollows of their house, the nights when silence had been the only lesson. She closed her notebook, looked at Josh. "We're going back," she said. The journey south was long. They rode buses through mountains that curled like sleeping animals. The town looked smaller than Anna remembered, the houses leaning like tired men, the school windows boarded. But children still played in the dirt lots, their laughter defying hunger. Anna stood among them with her red notebook, uncertain, then opened it. She began to read. Protect the slowest. Speak before pressure peaks. Make 2 lines when one is narrow. The children tilted their heads, confused. She smiled. These aren't just subway rules. They're life rules. For standing in line, for sharing food, for helping each other breathe. Word spread. Parents gathered. Soon the old school building opened its doors again, not with official funding, but with benches carried in by neighbors and chalkboards scrubbed clean by willing hands. Anna taught math and science in the mornings, her voice steady as the trains she had once guided. She taught kindness in the afternoons, her rules written large on the wall. Josh sat in the front row, thinner but smiling, proud to be her helper. Letters arrived from New York. Reed wrote of policy changes, Daniel of new safety drills. Each letter ended the same way. Your voice is still in the tunnels. But Anna's own voice now echoed in a different place. In a one-room school where coal dust lingered on the windowsills, where children carried her rules home to their families. One day, a small boy asked, "Miss Carter, why do you write all these rules?" She looked at him, at the dirt on his shoes, at the hunger in his eyes that mirrored her own childhood. She thought of the subway, the crush of bodies, the silence that once threatened to smother her mother, the night when she almost believed she was only a button pusher. "I write them," she said softly, "because one day I may not be here, but the rules will, and if you carry them, you'll be able to steer." That night, alone with her notebook, she wrote the final line. Rule 10. Knowledge is not yours to keep. Pass it on so others can breathe when you cannot. She closed the book, her hand lingering on the cover. The notebook no longer felt like her private shield. It felt like a gift ready to be given. Years later, passengers still told stories of the night the screens went black and a girl's voice saved a station. Students in Columbia lectures still read case studies that began with her name. But in the quiet hills of Kentucky, in a small school lit by coal-stained windows, children repeated her rules in their own voices, turning them into lessons for chores, for harvests, for life. The city had healed a little. Anna had healed more. And for the first time, she allowed herself to rest, not because the work was done, but because the work had spread. This story is dedicated to the quiet geniuses who live unseen in the corners of our world, workers, mothers, children, and dreamers, who carry wisdom without applause. May their voices remind us that knowledge belongs to everyone, and mercy is the highest form of intelligence.